Hey y'all, it's Farley with Writer's Edge Podcast, and today I get to have a conversation with Jennifer Casey. Hi Jennifer, thanks for joining me on the podcast today.
Hi, how are you?
I'm fabulous. I'm ready for spring to happen and sunshine to happen, but here we are. So we'll use our grumbly winter time to have fun conversations and go from there.
That sounds good since it's super rainy at my house. And we usually don't get rain. It's a good use of our time.
Perfect. So I'm going to let you kind of introduce yourself and tell your story and your journey, and we'll go from there.
Well, I'm Jennifer Casey. I am from technically a town, Mesa, Washington, which is in eastern Washington. I grew up here, went to school here, and then I went to Washington State University and got my undergraduate degree there. Then got my physical therapy degree from Pacific University. I have had a rope in my hand and wanted to rope since I was so little. I can't remember not wanting to rope, and specifically not wanting to breakaway rope. That is what I have wanted to do from a very, very young age. And I high school rodeoed, and we never junior rodeoed or any of that. There really wasn't as many opportunities for that. Went on to college, and I college rodeoed for 4 years and had success there. I had a pretty devastating accident while I was in college, and that's kind of what has shaped my path to become a physical therapist. And then I went on to all the regional rodeos. I started regional rodeo and amateur rodeos when I was 13 years old. So have had lots of success with those, and kind of went away from roping. I figured I'd been kind of roped out. I'd been to the same rodeos for over 30 years, and you just can only go to so many places. And kind of went away from there, and then tried to be a barrel racer. And I have a pretty nice barrel horse, but it just doesn't interest me. And everybody says I feel like I'm going super, super fast when I'm running barrels, and I'm not. And so tried to be a team roper. I team roped in high school and college. And but then I got, after I had to retire my old horse, I got my brother, we did some horse trading, and I got Reno, this black horse, a couple years ago. And he kind of reignited my love for breakaway roping. So I'm back in the midst of the sport.
Awesome. And we're finding that that's happening. That story is becoming pretty common across the industry as breakaway roping progresses, and there's a lot of forward momentum for the sport. So let's talk a little bit about what physical fitness, what physical attributes, I'm excited about this conversation, being a PT also, and all the conversations you and I've had previously. We talk about this a lot. It's kind of becoming one of our favorite things to do is talk about PT and breakaway roping.
Right. I just feel like I had to go to PT school when I was in college to be able to get myself well, right? I had a bad accident, and I'm sure my story is not uncommon in this whole horse sport realm of places. And every doctor I went to said, "Oh, you're fine. It's just your hobby. You don't really need to use your right arm." Or, "Well, you have headaches all the time. It's no big deal." Or, "You get dizzy while you get on your horse. It's fine. It's just a hobby. You're not going to do that anymore." And I'm like, no, this is not going to work for me. So kind of why I went to PT school. And I find that it takes a lot of strength to rope, right? And it takes a lot of strength to ride your horse out of the box and be with or ahead of them in a way to be able to be ready to rope. So to me, it means, yes, general core strength, leg strength, and upper back strength. So like scapular stability. I think those are the key features in what we need to do. And then it's balancing that with flexibility within the other muscles to be able to put yourself where you need to be. So it's just such a fine balance between the two of what it takes and what it means. And I find that it's not that if you go to the gym for 30 minutes 3 times a week, that's not going to get what we need. We need to be able to be strong enough and do things every day for 10 or 15 minutes throughout our day to get ourselves where we need to be able to rope. So what that looks like for me is I walk. I have a certain 4 or 5 exercises I do every day, and I rope the belt every day is how I keep my strength going. So I think it's making it work for you in your day and being consistent. I think consistency is the biggest key for people across every horse sport.
Absolutely. And I think you could take exactly what you just said and take the rider out of that conversation and put the horse in there, and everybody would say, oh yeah, we need to work on 4 different things all the time and be consistent. Well, it's the same thing in getting you ready as a roper.
Right. How many people you're like, oh yeah. And especially I feel like it's more prevalent in the barrel racing world than the roping world, right? But every barrel racer understands the concept of, well, I need to make sure I work my horse right and left and keep them balanced and make sure I work on their cardiovascular and their strength and their endurance. But then, oh, well, what about us sitting on top of them and, the chicken flopping on top of them, right? In the roping, like we have this term like ass cantle fight coming out of the box, this, to not do this to our horse, right? So I think it's just anything you take for us, you do for your horse too, right? And my horse gets pretty much the same. I mean, I go to get worked on once a week. She gets worked on more than once a week. She gets taped, I get taped. She gets this treatment, I get this treatment. It's like we basically do the same thing. And then she will be a little pissed or a little mad if I'm getting something that she's not, right? Like I haven't figured out how to cup my horse. I bought a cupping set 2 years ago specifically to be able to cup her, right? Because I watched YouTube videos and they say you can do it, but I've not figured out how to do it for her. So if you know how to do that, let me know.
That's so funny. So when we're talking about cupping, we're trying to get our horses cupped like Michael Phelps was in the Olympics, where you see the plastic or the glass cups and the skin and the tissue sucked up in there. And that's so funny, Jennifer, because I too have tried to do that on my horse and I haven't gotten it. I got close to figuring it out, but I didn't. It did not work the way I wanted to. I also tried to voodoo floss her in that same area, and that dang sure did not work.
Right, and I bought the flossing stuff. It's right there. I really haven't figured out how to floss myself yet. And I was so excited, like 6 weeks, probably in November, I bought all of those. And I'm like, I went over to Gina's house. I'm like, hey, we need to try this out. But I haven't been terribly successful. So she loves Graston, though. Oh, my gosh. She thinks it's the best thing ever. Oh, she loves it.
Oh, I bet. So the voodoo floss we're talking about is this basically tight rubber band that you wrap around tissue and do some movement through, and you can get some release. And I've had some success on people and myself with it, but dang sure not my horse. And then the Graston are those metal instruments that you can use to do soft tissue work. And I mean, that's genius because it saves your hands. Kind of when I was in PT school and I wanted to work on my feel in my hands, it's like, oh, I'll just go work on my horse. And 10 minutes in, I was like, oh, hell, like, this is a hell of a lot more work than what I have to do on people.
Oh, for sure, right? But do you tape your horses? I have taped her quite a bit. My black horse he's retired now, Reno, he loved to be taped to be hauled, like tape his SI joints in his fetlocks. and it was awesome. That's just was his thing. So
I've done a little bit of taping, especially when I first learned to kinesio tape, back when, you needed to get certified and go to classes and do the special deal, and there was only one brand of it. I didn't have a whole lot of success with it, just because these other competitors weren't out yet with better taping products that I feel like rock tape, works better on horses than just straight kinesio tape, in my opinion. But it's I've seen it help a lot of different horses.
Right. I use the Equitape brand, and I just buy boxes of it, and people and humans, everybody that I work with gets Equitape, and most people are okay with that. Some of the kids I work with are like, oh, and then, your other ones that they think about it for a while, and they're Equitape, and they're thinking, and they're like, this is for horses, right? Because I work with kids mostly. So, but I think it's a game changer for sure. I like to do a lot of fascial decompressions for her across her back and different types of things. So, it's huge. I haven't done as much facilitation of muscles with my horse as much as decompressions or trying to get restrictions, just because she hasn't needed. That's where we've been focusing, right? So that's what she needs.
Sure. I know I had Wendy Murdoch going last summer that created those Surefoot pads, the foam pads, and I got
I saw those, yeah.
Yeah, I got a pair.
Uh-huh.
My PT brain, it made sense. She is Feldenkrais trained and one of my mentors. So I'd been around someone for a long time who's been Feldenkrais trained. And so it made sense that way. The horseman or horsewoman side of me was like, this doesn't make a lick of sense. But I put my colt on it in the middle of the lot that he lives in, threw the lead rope over his neck. He eyes got big and glazed over, and he got drunk. He got drunk on those pads and wouldn't move off of them. His buddy's in the next slot with his tail over his back, squealing like a girl running, and he didn't care. And I was like, oh, we may be on to something here.
Right. I almost ordered a set, and they're on my radar, right? I've been looking at them. They come across Facebook all the time, and where I'm stuck at is which set to buy, because I wasn't willing to make the investment for the whole set, of which denseness. So I think I love the idea. So
yeah, I went firm on the pads because that's what Wendy recommended to start with. And I just bought the pair of pads, the green firm ones, and I've used them both on Colt, who went to one jackpot to exhibition and now believes he's a barrel horse with a 3-legged abscess. He's currently decided he's dying. He's dying less because it's busted, but for about 3 days he was barrel horse dying. And my rope horse, who's 19, it was a funny reaction because he was completely different. He was like, it took us several times for him to go, oh, this is really cool and I feel better. But I used them during the roping school last weekend to give him some relief Saturday, getting ready for Sunday. And I think they're going to be pretty key to helping with some fascial reset, some neurological reset, and just kind of I really like them. They it's still hard for me to go, oh, isn't this weird? And it's kind of foo-foo. But you can't placebo effect a horse. I can't go up to
oh yeah. So about 8 years ago, I started to do cranial sacral and So I am all over it. I am on the voodoo side of whatever we want to call it, the woohoo side of PT world. I wouldn't do well at teaching anymore because I'm like, if it works, it works, right? And the whole research based just doesn't cut it for me anymore. Right. But I really want to try them with my mare because she was in 3-degree wedges for 3 years. And I worked really closely with and we got her to flat shoes, and this will be her 3rd set in 2 weeks. So I just think I didn't want to try them while she was transitioning, even though it probably should have, but the PT side of me says one thing at a time type person. So, and I'm not willing to try them until after Fort Worth and after the semifinals, but like, they're going to be my March 15th. We're going to go there type thing.
Perfect. Yeah. You can't, whether you're talking about working with people or horses, you can't throw all of the kitchen sink at them at one time, because then you don't know what worked or what not. And I call it hippy dippy, either voodoo or hippy dippy. And I always say I'm on the hippy dippy fence, and I kind of bounce. I'll get on one side of the hippy dippy fence or the other, depending upon what's going on.
Right. It's, yeah, I'm over there on that side of the fence, and I don't think I'll come back ever, but that's okay. I don't let on to that very much. And you never tell your clients that you're over there, but they're like, how did you get from here to here? And I'm like, well, you just kind of start with your gut and then you go from there. Mm-hmm. But I assume it's more than that, but that's how I work it in my brain, right?
Absolutely. Yeah, your gut goes a long way. And we talk about what the literature says here on the podcast, but we also talk about what real life and experience and how our we feel and our horses feel. And you can't, like I say all the time, you can't placebo effect a horse. I can't walk up the tank and say, boy, if you stand on this green pad, you're going to feel a hell of a better. He either is going to get on it and lick and chew, or he's not. Yeah.
Right. And I think everybody needs a horse that's as expressive as my mare is, to understand how communicative they are. My gelding, he doesn't really, he'll kind of, you can listen and he'll tell you, but he doesn't really care. But my mare will tell you you don't even have to be close to her, and she's telling you what she does and does not like and what she does and does not want. So I just think that's a huge piece that people kind of miss out on, and they're not listening to their horses beforehand to where they get to like an injury, and they tell us way up until that time. And I have a hard time in communicating that to people enough that, like, we have to listen to our bodies ahead of time before we're so bad we can't lift our arm, right? Or we can't walk, or we can't lift a bale of hay.
Well, and I think that's a great example. As you and I work with people who aren't around horses, and we work on trying to describe body awareness, and you need to be body aware. Well, all the listeners out there, and continue to forward this conversation around, they're a lot more in tune most of the time to the ways a horse communicates. Mm-hmm. And that's a great parallel into how our bodies communicate with us, that it's a very subtle thing that continues to compile over time. And if you listen to it earlier, then it doesn't have to yell and scream and jump up and down at you later, or not let you do those things.
Do those things that we wanted, that we love to do, right? It's and I think that that's just so important, that kind of like we talked earlier, the fact of if we do X, Y, and Z daily, it gets us stronger and maintains us, and kind of takes away a little bit every day of all the stuff that we're putting on, so that we don't get so bad that we can't move, or we can't do what we love to do. So because we're not going to tell a horse person not to get on their horse. I mean, that's just, they're not going to listen,
Yes. A, they're not going to listen. B, you've severed all communication, all future communication if you do that.
For sure, right? Kind of like me when I was going to all those different people when I was in college, and I'm like, you guys are dumb, is kind of what I told them. And I perhaps told them that to their face and probably walked out, knowing me at the time. I don't really remember that part of it, but yeah, it just, that's not the way horse people work, right? So I just think having 3 things that people do every single day, no matter what type of horses you ride. Like last summer, I was really trying to work on my knee strength, because my one knee had been sore, and just wasn't quite right. So when I fed, every time I walked by a bale of hay, I would do 5 kind of sit to stand, wall sit combinationless. They were not perfect, but I got a lot stronger, by the end of the summer, because I was doing that every day.
Absolutely. I think that's a great example of just the little things, like your walking program or doing those sit to stands or the 4 shoulder exercises, and just setting yourself up for success, creating daily habits that are not, you have to leave your barn and go do a Instagram perfect workout that you can post on Instagram and then go back to the rope pen or wherever. So yeah, absolutely.
Another one of my favorite ones to do is when I'll start traveling this weekend is, every time you stop for diesel or the pickup stops, I've done it a couple ways. You either, run around the pickup 3 times, or you do a set of lunges, or a set of squats. Usually by the end of the summer, I'm able to do a set of each, right? While the diesel tank fills, or just using your time wisely, I think, because we also get in the fact of, I'm traveling and I can't do my exercises because I'm traveling, and I would never get anything done because all I do is drive most of the year. So it's just fitting it in.
Mm-hmm. Yes, because we always talk about we are more truck driver than rodeo rock star, that we like to think that we are.
Oh, for sure, right? When every truck stop and between here and wherever, and yes. That's for sure. Yes. I was packing, trying to set up to pack to go to Fort Worth, and then for when I leave to go to Texas, and so I'm trying to make 2 piles of stuff, and I'm like, okay, and I, which map goes in where, and I have this little bit of TheraBand goes in each pile, and a set of cups goes in each pile, and tape goes in each pile. So there's quite the stuff that goes with me everywhere, just because it has to.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. So let's switch gears a little bit. You, because you've been doing this a long time. You just won the average at the Columbia River Circuit Finals a couple weekends ago. Congratulations on that. And let's talk about, and you're headed to.
Thank you.
You're welcome. And you're headed to Fort Worth to breakaway. It's the first year Fort Worth has added breakaway to the rodeo. And a lot of new firsts, I think, will happen again in 2020. So let's talk a little bit more about the mental side of breakaway roping and your thoughts on that subject.
I'm a big believer in you do one, and I think it goes back to the same thing. You do one thing every day to get 1% better every day. That's one of my favorite things. So I think it all starts with having your big goal and reverse engineering back to that one thing you need to do every day. But it also goes into the fact of I have a strict 15-minute rule. Anybody I travel with, you will get to have to ride the back if you can't abide by it. You get 15 minutes to be mad, pout, whatever about your competition run. And then you need to pick 3 things out of that run that were good, or 2 things that were good and 1 thing you're going to learn from, right? Because the main idea behind that is, you're either winning or learning. And that has been instilled on me from a very, very young age, because I might not have, in that 15 minutes, you can be mad, but you have to figure out, was it something in your run that you could control, or was it something that was out of your control? And I think that's our hardest part. I know for me to figure out, was it within my control or was it not within my control? Was that calf really just a bad calf, or was my horse not doing X, Y, or Z? And I say that my horse doing it, which is the rider on top, is the one that's directing your horse, right? I think horsepower plays a huge role within that aspect of it, and knowing what your horse is capable of, so that you can say, okay, I need to know that that calf just really did run fast, or no, my horse just didn't really fire. And I think how people kind of have to figure that out is the fact of, you see good horses if you think so-and-so never draws a fast calf, well, then I can guarantee you that their horse is just a little bit faster than yours, right? And that's okay, because I don't think everybody needs to ride the same horse. You just need to know what you have, right? So I think that is the most important thing for people to understand is, if you get mad or pissed or whatever, throw your rope can, like, that is so not beneficial to anybody, right? Because you're just setting yourself up to fail again at the next one, right? And you set yourself up to have the high highs and the low lows. And yeah, you have to be appreciative of things, but it's not, it doesn't get you anywhere. And I think the other aspect of things, especially when you're competing, is, every Sunday is championship Sunday, right? I'm a Seahawks fan through and through. I'm a Pete Carroll fan. And I drink the Pete Carroll juice, and, every Sunday is championship Sunday. Every run means the same. And that has to be true for you, or you're going to set yourself up to fail, right? You're going to get to a little quote unquote jackpot and not put your all in it, or you're going to get to the high of highs and be so jacked up you can't think. So you got to ride that wave and understand that, and understand how to control your emotions surrounding that. And I think that goes back, that does not happen that day. It goes back to figuring out your self-value, self-worth, self-appreciation, all of those inner workings that you have to do the work, so that on Sunday or whenever you're competing, you're ready. I know that was a long answer to what you said.
That's awesome. That was awesome. It, because everything, all of your rules are the same rules that we live by in my truck, and just that was a great way to kind of set that up and map that out there for everybody. So awesome. So breakaway roping is all the buzz in the rodeo world right now. It's you see it on the Facebook, you see it on the social media, it's on the RFD, the Cowboy Channel. It's in the spotlight right now, which is so awesome because there's so many opportunities. But I'm a big believer in making sure the history of how we get to a big moment gets told right, and those stories continue to be told, that these rodeo committees didn't just wake up one day and say, hey, we'll put breakaway roping in there, just because like it it took a lot of work on a lot of women and men and different committees and meeting and talking and conversations over a lot of time. So let's kind of walk through the story of how we are where we are.
Where I came into the picture was in 2015. I won the world's richest, and so I had enough money that I figured I needed to go back to the world finals. And I was like, this is a good year. So I had the black horse. So by that time I'd been away, when I say away from the sport, it's not like I'd stopped roping. I just kind of lost focus within roping. And then I had this black horse who decided that he was really happy to be a breakaway horse and not a calf horse anymore. And so we won so we went back to the world finals, and I went back there, and I want to say that there was 32 girls entered, and it was not I roped awesome. I broke out once, but I won second, or won every other go and second average, and I won $2,000, right? And I'm like, okay, well, this is kind of dumb, and it was not exciting. It was just kind of, we as breakaway ropers are stuck in the back, and it was just like, well, this is the world finals, guys, and this, anyway, the next year, no, I want to say it was in 2015, Dave Paul with the Coeur d'Alene Rodeo Committee said, hey, what about if we have a breakaway roping during the day on Thursday, because I need something, basically we need some entertainment within our rodeo arena for the spectators within the fair, to give them, an hour or two to come sit down and something to watch. I'm like, well, sure, we can do that, right? So we got together a breakaway roping, and then the next year, so then I went to world finals, and then the next year I'm like, well, Dave Paul wanted to do that again at Coeur d'Alene, and then Kennewick at Horse Heaven says, well, we could do that. We could have breakaway during, just a jackpot breakaway during slack. And they were WPRA co-approved, but what people need to realize is anything even until this year, our world champions were never crowned out of our rule book. They were crowned off at jackpots. and they still are crowned off of jackpots. So events that do not follow our rule book, right? Which I have a really hard time with. So I'm like, okay, so we had these events, these jackpots that were WPRA, followed a rule book, and whether or not we agree with the rule book, but we got to have rules, right? And we had judges, and we had all of those things. And so we had this, and girls started buying their cards. And then I decided, you know what? What if we had a circuit finals with the Chris Powers? So Gina Isaac was so that year, Chris Powers was the barrel director, but the year before it was Gina Isaac. And she was all about, like, from the get-go, having breakaway roping, right? She's like, well, we need, and I don't think know if she's ever roped. She used to play polo, and then she was a barrel racer. And she's like, well, we need to have roping. She's an amazing, amazing person, right? And anyway, so she's like, we're going to have this divisional circuit jackpot. You should have breakaway too. I'm like, oh, okay. Well, we can have breakaway. So we had a thing, and we said, okay, if you have your 16 card or about your 17 card, you can come rope. Well, we had 32 girls in that breakaway. So we had as many people with their cards at our circuit finals as they did at the world finals the year before. I'm like, oh, what do girls want? What do ropers want? They want to compete at the rodeos with rules, with judges, with their husbands, boyfriends at these places that they've never had a chance to compete at. I attended Pendleton, and in college I attended maybe the Letter Buck room quite a bit, but I never ever thought, like, it never even crossed my mind I'd rope on the grass, right? So when that opportunity came up, I'm like, okay, I'm gonna have to rethink this, right? Because it's a whole different experience. But I had, horse having roundup 30 minutes, I never even dreamed I would get to compete at it, right? So I just saw this need. And then the rodeo committees, by this point, 2017, so I went and talked to the committees and kind of explained to them what breakaway was. And they're like, oh, well, we need that. 52% of the quote unquote butts in the seats or so sponsorship dollars and spectator dollars are women. And we have one woman's event. And you guys are fast and flashy and pretty, and it's easy to understand. We need you guys, right? So it was just a lot of committees saying, yeah, that's pretty awesome, and we would like you. So we have 15 rodeos within our circuit now, and I want to say we'll have at least 10 more, if not more. We'll have, within the first year, we had a third of our rodeos within our circuit having breakaway. And I want to say we're going to add 10 or 15 more this year that'll have breakaway. And so I truly, truly believe, so Randy Bernard and RFD TV saw that Pendleton, Kennewick, Ellensburg, Red Bluff all added breakaway and saw how big a draw it was for sponsorship dollars, for spectators. They see the dollars in that. So what do? They add breakaway to the American. And I think it's just all snowballed from there.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I was working Pendleton for the rodeo sports medicine team when they exhibitioned breakaway the first year they had it, and then brought it in this year. And I was like, oh, how cool is that to be able to run down onto the grass, like, and here we go. But I think it's important that the Columbia River circuit get the nod up there for helping push that snowball down the hill so that it's been able to accelerate for girls and women all over the country.
Oh, for sure, right? The committees just have wholeheartedly accepted us and have seen the value that we bring to their rodeos. And it's just been amazing, the support that we have in the Columbia River circuit. I'm just truly thankful and appreciative of it. And it's just going to grow. This 2020 is going to be amazing.
Yes, and it's already kicking off with Fort Worth, not only adding breakaway, but adding equal money, I believe, in the breakaway is what I heard one night this week as the TV coverage is getting better with the Cowboy Channel's new contracts with the PRCA and the committees.
Yes, it is equal added money, and I have DirecTV, so I don't have Ditch, so I don't have the Cowboy Channel, but I spent a good day of my Monday trying to figure out how to be able to watch the Cowboy Channel live online, and it's coming, they said, but I can't watch it yet. But yes, so starting Friday night, breakaway should be, what I understand, is the third event right after the calf scramble. And we will rope. Our calves will be the calf rope and calves from the set before. So Fort Worth has worked really hard to keep our cattle even within the sets. Breakaway roping has a huge growing curve this next year as we implement and get the rules in place to be a PRCA event, basically, or event within the PRCA rodeos, because our rule book does not currently reflect what it needs to, and to get that all in place. But I feel like it's improving every year. Let's put it that way.
Oh, absolutely. Because even I've seen San Antonio's putting in at least a breakaway jackpot. And so, small steps. I don't know that it is fully up to scale of some of the other committees, but even some of these bigger committees are putting things in at the last minute for breakaway, and that's at least a small to medium step in the right direction with the way the snowball's going.
For sure, right? Everybody wants on the snowball. I don't think hopefully we'll get clearer leadership by March, and we can have an easier way for people to get in the path of the snowball and add breakaway roping. Right now, it's not very clear. The waters are a little muddy, so it's a work in progress.
Absolutely. So, as any kind of maybe closing thoughts on advice to maybe women who are in similar situations that keep getting told across the country that they breakaway roped when they were in high school or college and life happened, and maybe they want to go back, and how would you suggest getting past the blocks and the fear of going back and give some advice to them?
Right. And I'm a just do it person. I would say, get a rope. It does not matter what you get. Don't get like a hard rope. Just go to the tack store and get a $5 used team rope and rope. It doesn't have to be expensive, and a bale of hay, and just kind of start fiddling around with the rope, right? What do kids do? They play with ropes all the time, right? They have it in a hand all the time, and just having that rope and picking it up every day and just swinging it every day for a while, and that feel, if you've roped before, will kind of come back, and you'll be able to say, oh yeah. And the more you handle that rope, the more confident you will be in your ability to do something before you even say get on your horse or do any of that. Just pick a rope up every day and swing it. That's step one.
Awesome. Yeah, just get some Nike in there and let's just do it. But that's a perfect way to get that feel kind of moving back and get your own personal snowball rolling back into the box.
For sure.
So Jennifer, if anybody wants to reach out and say, hey, I really liked how you said that in that conversation, I'd like to have another chat with you about breakaway or PT or any kind of perspective you were able to give us in this conversation today, where can they find you?
My Facebook page, I have a personal Facebook page, Jennifer L. Casey, and my actual page is, I think, Jennifer Casey. It's all about breakaway roping. So, or just jenniferlcasey.com is my website. So any of those places should get you in touch with me.
Awesome. Well, I want to thank you for taking the time to have a conversation here on Rider's Edge today. And
oh, you're welcome.
Awesome. Thank you. And we will definitely we'll do it again, and we'll dive more into more roping specifics as we have more conversations in the future.
Perfect.
All right. Thanks for listening to the Rider's Edge podcast today. As always, I appreciate your time and attention to the conversation, and I will see you down the road. Thank you for listening to the Writer's Edge podcast today. We appreciate your time and attention. Thank you for always helping us move the conversation forward. If you liked today's podcast, please help us keep the conversations going by subscribing to this podcast and consider leaving us a review so others can find us and join in on the conversations. You can also find more information by checking us out on our social media channels, including Facebook at Writer's Edge Therapy and Wellness, Instagram at Writer's Edge Therapy, and our website, www.writersedgetherapy.com. It is there that you can book a consult for either you or your horse. Thank you, and as always, we will see you down the road.